In this video, we will use FEMAP to create a tetrahedral mesh on this relatively complex piece of solid geometry. You will notice that this piece of geometry has quite a few surfaces, many of which are relatively small compared to the overall size of the part. What we're going to do is we're going to show you a couple of ways to take care of this particular issue. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Mesh Control, Size on Solid. Choose our part. We're going to make sure we're sizing for TET meshing. We're just going to leave most of these sizing options with the default values, and then we're also going to turn on Auto Boundary Small Surfaces. And this is going to size the piece of geometry for us. And then we're going to go to Mesh, Geometry, Solids. Just going to load a material from the library and let FEMAP go to work on TET meshing this model. Unfortunately, FEMAP was unable to create a TET mesh on this particular part, given that we only use that one additional option in the default values. So we're just going to say yes to this particular dialog box, which is going to show us one of the areas that is a problem for the mesher. As you can see in here, some nodes have been highlighted, which caused a problem during the meshing process. I'm just going to turn off my elements and nodes just so we can take a look at our geometry, and what you'll see is that this surface that kind of starts here and necks down to nothing and comes over here, basically this is causing the problem. So what we're going to do, instead of an automatic boundarying of surfaces, what we're going to do is we're going to use our meshing toolbox and come over to the Combined Boundary Surfaces tool, and we're going to use the Add by Curve option. It's going to turn on the Select of the meshing toolbox. Just going to choose this curve between these two surfaces and make a boundary between them. Going to do it over here, and this model has two of these bosses, so I'm going to need to do it over here as well. Another issue that we're going to find, and you'll find it in more places in this part, but I'm just going to show it to you here as an example, is we just have some very short curves next to some much larger curves and boundary surfaces. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just create some composite curves by choosing points. And we also happen to have the combined surfaces check on, which is going to create combined surfaces based on these combined curves. Again, I'm just going to do both sides of that. Again, I'm going to, I have the two bosses, so I'm going to do it over here as well. At this point, this model would create a TET mesh, but from meshing this part many times now, I know that another place that we might want to create a boundary surface is right here in the teeth area. So we're just going to come over here to our Combined Boundary Surfaces tool, again turn on the little selector. We're just going to choose this curve between the surfaces of the teeth and the surface right above it and create a boundary surface. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the bottom here. Alright, now that we've created all the boundary surfaces we need in this model, we're going to delete the mesh which we had in here, which even though we could not create a TET mesh, FEMAP was able to mesh many of the surfaces with plot-only plate elements. We're just going to turn our mesh back on as well. So as soon as we're done meshing this part, we'll be able to see it. So we're going to go to Mesh, Geometry, Solids, say OK, and again let FEMAP go to work. Alright, now that FEMAP is done TEP meshing this model, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. We're going to turn off the geometry and the nodes just so we can see the TEP mesh that FEMAP was able to generate. And this is a perfectly viable TEP mesh if you wanted to, say, run this model in NX Nastran.